Samuel and Joanna were playing with a hoop outside their house near Bethany one morning. "You two be careful," called their mother from inside the house. "And keep yourselves busy. I've got loads to do to get ready for the Passover, and I don't want to be disturbed." Samuel was older than his sister Joanna, and he understood how important the Passover was for their people. And he also understood just how much work was involved for their mother. As they were playing, they noticed that a crowd was gathering down near the far end of the road, and they decided to go and find out what was going on. "Do you think we should go that far from the house?" Joanna had asked. But Samuel reminded her that they were supposed to stay out of their mother's way, and so off they went. When they reached the crowd, it was already 3 or 4 people deep, and they couldn't see anything. They tried to squeeze through between some people, but some grumpy grown-ups closed the gap and pushed Samuel and Joanna out of the way. "What's going on?" shouted Joanna. "Shh," said a woman who was carrying a baby in her arms. "He's coming! Yes, I think I can see him!" "Who's coming?" yelled Joanna. But nobody would answer, because all around them the people were trying to get a look for themselves. A few moments later, a couple of people near them started to take off their outer cloaks because it was getting so warm with all those people squashed together. And as they stretched their arms to remove their cloaks, a gap in the crowd opened up right near Samuel. "Quick, through here," he shouted as he grabbed Joanna's arm and ducked through the gap with her in tow. Suddenly they burst through to the front of the crowd and they could see what was happening. There, in the distance, was a man riding on a young donkey. Although they could hardly see the donkey, just the top of its head and its ears, because all around the man was a huge crowd surging forward with him. Joanna elbowed her brother in the ribs. "Who's that?" she asked. "Why has the crowd gathered for him?" And before Samuel could think of an answer, a man bent towards them and said, "Where have you kids been for the last few months?" "That's Jesus, the teacher. Some people even think he's the Messiah, sent by God to save us from the Roman soldiers." "That's right," said an elderly woman next to them. "He's God's chosen one. He's God's son. He's a descendant of King David. You know, God's favourite king." While the children thought for a moment, the people around them began to remove their outer cloaks and lay them on the floor in front of the donkey. Joanna looked at her brother with a puzzled face. "Don't you get it, sis?" he said. "If he is God's chosen one, he shouldn't be getting dirty from this muddy road. It's a way of showing how important he is." "I want to do it too," said Joanna. "But I came out without my cloak today because I knew I would get warm from playing." "There must be something else we can use," said her brother, and he looked around to see what he could find. "Hang on a minute, I've got an idea," he said, and he ducked away into the crowd. Quickly he returned with some palm branches from the tree by the side of the road. "These'll do, won't they?" And he handed 2 to his sister. Joanna laughed and began to wave the palm branches around. "These are like flags," she squealed. "Flags to wave before the king. Come on!" And they ran alongside the donkey, waving the branches and shouting with the crowd. "Hosanna for the one who comes in God's name. Hosanna for the Son of David. Hosanna for God in heaven. Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna." Suddenly, a group of those grumpy grown-ups stood in the middle of the road, right in front of the donkey. "Teacher, This isn't true. Tell these people to stop, said one of them. Joanna looked to Jesus to see what he would do in response, and she watched as a tear rolled down his face. He was sad because of what the man had said. I tell you the truth, Jesus replied. If these people stop shouting their praises, even the rocks and stones will cry out. Joanna laughed at the idea of rocks talking, and so she shouted even louder with the crowd as the grumpy men moved away. Hosanna to the King! Hosanna to God in heaven! Hosanna!